And welcome to the A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. I am Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. Across from me, digitally at least. Wherever you listen throughout the world, we thank you so much for listening to us. Zach and I talk everything Vols every week here on the Big Orange Podcast. And if that sounds like something you want to listen to on the regular, go over to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed on Apple, Spotify. And when you get there, rate, review, and most importantly, subscribe. Because if you do subscribe, you won't miss our episodes when we drop them. Usually I say when we drop them on Mondays, but at this point, who knows when we're going to drop them? Because it's the middle of the summer, and we're just kind of working around what the schedule gives us. Because this is a Wednesday, so we're getting it figured out. But it's during the season, and when the times when it really gets going, Tennessee sports wise, it's going to be on Mondays. So look out for that. YouTube, go there, because usually we are live on YouTube. Again, this is another weird week. We're not live on YouTube this week, but typically we are at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays, and you can not just watch the show, but be a part of the show. You can comment, and we love to talk about the comments and react to what y'all say, and so get in there, leave some comments, and be a part of the show at the A to Z Sports Nashville YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, yada, yada, yada. At Charlie_Burris, at Zach TNT, at A to Z Sports, A to Z Sports.com for everything that Zach writes on the old internet. And it's a content desert out there, Zach, right now. You said the thing that is keeping the numbers up at the website at the moment is Tennessee sports, because, Lord knows these fans are insane in the best way. And they'll read about, listen to, consume anything about Tennessee anytime, and I'm one of them. I get drawn in, and it's tough, but we're almost SEC Media Days. It's so close. Just get us there, and then it's almost football season.
It's almost a testament to Tennessee fans. Anything I write about the NFL right now, it feels like people aren't really grabbing onto it. They're not paying as much of attention. They're on vacation. They're kind of checked out. Maybe they're watching baseball, or they're into the NBA free agency that was happening this past week. But Tennessee fans don't take a day off. They never check out. They're live and die 365 days a year Tennessee football. So it's just a testament to the passion of Tennessee fans, for sure.
Absolutely. They're too good. They deserve more. Hopefully we'll get it here soon. It seems like the sports teams are closing in on the championships that this fan base deserves, because Lord knows the fan base has given it all. They've left it all out there on the field. We'll get it back here soon. But all right, today's show, even still, you got stuff to talk about with Tennessee sports always. And this week we're going to talk a little bit about something that Joe Milton had to say about the Florida game that made me sweat. And it's not necessarily in a good way, but I'm glad that he has the confidence that he has. I'll say that. We're going to discuss what he said. Then an interesting, I would almost call it an epidemic of bad lists that are coming out from college football media, and we're going to talk about that, because often they love to bait Tennessee fans with bad lists, putting Tennessee and its players and coaches and things in stupid positions on these lists so that Tennessee fans will get outraged. We're going to talk about one of those. Baseball has been recruiting. Obviously, you lost Chase Burns, but you have gained two of the top transfer prospects in America so far. We're going to discuss that too. And then we got a little recruiting news that we're going to wrap up with. But before we get into all that, I got to tell you about our first amazing sponsor, which is the great folks at Omaha Steaks. Summer is here. Time to sit back and unwind with Omaha Steaks. Perfectly aged, always tender, and guaranteed delicious. Omaha Steaks is sharing an amazing limited time offer. When you go to omahasteaks.com and enter keyword Vols into the search bar, you'll be able to order the gourmet grill pack for just $99.99. Plus, you'll get 8 free Omaha Steaks burgers when you order. These burgers are legendary. I can attest. I've had them on multiple occasions now. They are incredible, and you should get them. They taste like a steak on a bun. Order now and save 61% on the gourmet grill pack, and that includes 4 bacon-wrapped fillets, 4 premium air-chilled boneless chicken breasts, 4 boneless pork chops, 4 gourmet jumbo franks, 4 made-from-scratch caramel apple tartlets, also amazing, and an Omaha Steaks seasoning pack. And then, of course, those 8 free burgers. 2 Omaha Steaks isn't just steak. It's the best steak of your life. Guaranteed. Don't wait. Go to omahasteaks.com and type in Vols into the search bar, VOLS, and order the Gourmet Grill Pack today. That is omahasteaks.com. Keyword Vols. Go there now. Support them because they support us. Thank you. Thank you to Omaha Steaks. All right. So you wrote about this on A to Z Sports.com, Zach. But Joe Milton, what program was he on where he said this?
It was the Locked On SEC podcast. Give them some credit. It was their video.
Yeah, want to give credit where it's due there. He was on the Locked On SEC podcast, whatever network that may or may not be on. And well, I guess just explain what did he have to say on that show that stirred up some controversy?
Yeah, I think this was actually from a week or so ago. I kind of stumbled across it on YouTube, and the video didn't have that many views at that time. I don't think a couple of hundred maybe. It was when Joe Milton was down at the Manning Passing Academy in Louisiana a couple of weeks ago. Peyton Manning and his family put on down there. He was chatting with some media and some reporters, and they asked him how much it meant to beat Clemson in his home state of Florida. Joe Milton, of course, is from Florida and went to high school there before he signed with Michigan and eventually landed at Tennessee. And he said, it was very meaningful to beat Clemson. He said, I don't lose in Florida. I took that one to heart. Pretty much I take every game to heart, but I don't lose in Florida. And just kind of the way he said it and put that out there, it wasn't a question about, how do you perform in Florida or anything like that. It just knowing that they play in Gainesville, that they play the Gators in Gainesville this season, felt like Joe Milton's got a little something extra for that game. And who knows what that means, but I think he knew exactly what he was saying when he made those comments.
Yeah, this is interesting because it really highlights the difference in the way that players look at games played by Tennessee compared to fans. Because for people that don't know or listen to this show at length, I was the co-host of Jason Swain's show for a while there, the Swain event. And because of that, obviously Swain himself is a former player. And through that show, I interacted with a bunch of former players. And none of them think about Tennessee the way that we all think about Tennessee. Like they go into a game and they're like, yeah, Tennessee's going to win. Like that's we didn't come here to lose. We're going to win the game. And they don't think about it through this like damaged Vol fan perspective that we, the battered Vol syndrome that we all have. They don't think about it that way. They just come in because most of them, they didn't grow up Tennessee fans. Some of them did, some of them didn't. But, they just come into it with that player perspective of just like, no, we're going to go out there. We're going to play the game. We're going to, and, we're going to talk our smack if we need to. And if we can't back it up, then that's our fault. We should have backed it up. They just really don't come at it from the same perspective as fans. And Joe Milton here, obviously he does not know the backstory with Florida and how damaged this fan base is when it comes to the Florida game. And obviously, lost on a Hail Mary, lost on the 4th and 14. And that's just in the last, 6 years or whatever.
8 years. Yeah.
8 years. Just some pretty, and then obviously it was 16 of the last 17 or whatever. Was that Alabama? Whatever it was, lost a bunch out of the last bunch. And so he goes out here and he says this. And of course I hear it and I'm like, oh, don't give him bulletin board material. We haven't won in the swamp since 2003. We need this. But then I also think about it. I'm like, yeah, I want this dude who's the quarterback at Tennessee to have this kind of confidence. And I really love it. And hopefully he backs it up.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that people are going to say is, okay, you've just given Florida some bulletin board material. And that's true. If a Florida player had said this, I would have, full transparency, I would have propped it up as, hey, Florida just gave Tennessee, bulletin board material. They gave them motivation for this game. I mean, but that's how it goes in sports. I mean, look at the NFL, the Chiefs and the Bengals. It seems like they never stop going at each other. So it's nothing uncommon. I think it's part of what makes sports fun. That's what makes it compelling. It's what gets fans into it. I don't see any issue with it. At the same time, Tennessee should beat Florida in Gainesville. All things being equal, it doesn't matter that it's Florida and all this stuff that's happened. If you take all that out of the equation, Tennessee has a better roster. They're the program's in a better spot after last season. Billy Napier, they're still trying to figure out, is he the guy? In theory, on paper, motivation shouldn't make a big difference in this game. Tennessee has the scheme, they have the talent, they should be able to go down there and handle business. But like you said, they haven't won there since 2003. They've only beat Florida twice since 2004, and one of those wins came last season. So there is the history there that Milton hasn't quite lived. I mean, you can be told about it. You can show up at Tennessee in 2021, and you can be told, hey, this team hasn't beaten Florida much at all over the last 20 years. In Joe Milton's second year, they beat Florida, and they beat Florida, and he's probably thinking, what's the big deal? Didn't seem like that big of a deal to, first home game against them, we get in. I don't understand, what the fan base is so worried about, but it's different when you live it and you see those losses. You go through Tim Tebow just running over guys. You go through not being able to beat Will Muschamp or Jim McElwain getting fired and you've never even beat him. Dan Mullen, the character that he is, not being able to get past him. The devastating way some of those losses happened. The 2014 Florida game where you just kicked field goals the whole game and ended up losing. I mean, all those things, they have an impact on fans. The good news is the players hasn't had the same impact on them necessarily. Maybe a few of the guys like Cooper Mays and Jacob Warren that grew up Tennessee fans, like they're aware of that. But the rest of these guys, it means nothing to them. They just want to go out there and win a game.
Yeah, it is always funny to see that difference, but you want them to have that confidence. And as you said, I mean, they are the superior team this season. And I don't think you would get almost anybody saying anything different. And I've said it multiple times this offseason, I know, but this is the time for Tennessee in regards to Florida, because Butch had the opportunity to overtake Florida. He beat them once. Credit to him on that. But you had Florida beaten down. The McElwain was garbage, and they just stunk, and you did not take advantage at all. You beat them the one time. Now is the time to snatch that chain back and get right where you should be when it comes to playing Florida. Because, I mean, just this painful slide has to end at some point, and now is the time. Because, recently, since Danny White showed up, it has just been a period of Tennessee fans getting things that we sort of never thought we would see again. At least it felt that way. I think we all knew at the back of our minds, like, all these things will come back around. Sports are cyclical. But, like, you were sort of convinced, like, I'm not going to see Tennessee sports win an SEC championship again. Well, in the last, 2 years, basketball SEC championship, baseball SEC championship, softball SEC championship. You came close to playing for an SEC championship in football if you could have beaten Georgia this season. And, you're seeing things you haven't seen before. Now is the time for another one of those. And you got to take it back with Florida. And Milton, I hope he's right. I mean, if you don't lose in the state of Florida, you don't lose in the state of Florida. But that's easier said than done when it comes to the swamp, because the place for Tennessee has been nothing short of cursed. So
and it's a night game. It's a night game this year. But if you're a Tennessee fan and these comments make you nervous, or you're just nervous in general about the Florida game in 2023, look, Florida wasn't that good last season. The only reason that they kind of got to what they won 6 games, I think, they had a top 10 draft pick at quarterback. Yeah, he's gone. Anthony Richardson's gone. He's with the Colts now. He's in the NFL. That could be Butch Jones without Josh Dobbs in 2017. That could be what we see from Napier in 2023. And I'm not, we don't know that for sure. Who knows? We could be surprised, but I think the fact that you beat, the only reason that game last season was even close. I mean, Tennessee was running away with that game before Anthony Richardson kind of took off and really made, some things happen and made that game closer than it should have been. The fact that he's gone, I think, should make Tennessee fans feel pretty confident. I mean, obviously, Hendon Hooker's gone too, but how can you not be excited about Joe Milton? We all saw that video of him throwing the ball 75, 80 yards at the Manning Passing Academy, just on the money. I don't care if there's a defender around on the field. He's thrown against air. Nobody's in pads. The fact that he can do that at all on a field in front of, 100 spectators, 150 spectators, maybe more than that. The pressure was on. Everybody's there to see Joe Milton do something special. That is a ton of pressure when everybody knows you can throw the ball that far, and to still go out there and come through in that moment with Peyton Manning looking on, Eli Manning looking on, Archie Manning looking on, all these just the biggest names in the history of football, some of the biggest names looking on, and Joe Milton was able to deliver right there on the spot. You got to be excited. Like, that has to excite you going into this season.
It does seem like he's really fallen into his groove. From that Clemson game, it was not perfect, but it was the best form of him that we've seen, and that was the last game he played. The best form of Milton was the last time we saw him, and that usually means good things when he has an additional offseason to get it going. That it would just be so nice. And yeah, that whole thing with the Manning Passing Academy was crazy. It was everywhere. At 247 On 3 Barstool Sports, they all post that, like, Tennessee quarterback Joe Milton launches an absolute rocket into space. And that was it, which is amazing exposure for Tennessee. I know some people are, dubious about social media exposure and things like that, but I mean, that's incredible PR for Tennessee. Make no mistake about that. Like, having your dude pumped up like that on every single sports media website is awesome. And especially associated at a thing that's run by a guy who's a Tennessee guy. I mean, it's all great.
And it's a great look. I mean, really, Peyton and them should get a lot more credit for what they put on, because it really helps a lot of young quarterbacks. It brings these guys together, the mentors they meet, the relationships that they build. It's an incredible event and an incredible way of giving back to the game of football, and also just pushing the game forward. Because Peyton Manning, the style of football that he played, he was ahead of his time a bit with the way that he kind of called his own plays. A lot of times at the line of scrimmage, and the changes and audibles that he would make. But the game is a lot different than even when he played in the NFL and retired 8 years ago after the 2015 season. But he is continuing to push the game forward, and he's behind guys like Joe Milton, have these rocket arms, or Hendon Hooker that can take off running, or even Tennessee fans won't like it, but Stetson Bennett, the way he played at Georgia. I mean, he's committed to pushing the game forward that way. So I think it's a really great thing that Peyton does, and the entire Manning family.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And the only thing that I hope, anything negative towards the Manning family, is that Tennessee's up and coming 5-star quarterback is better than the Manning family's up and coming 5-star quarterback. Sorry, Arch. No offense. But you play
2025, they'll both be juniors, and when they play each other at Texas versus Tennessee, Manning versus Nico.
That should be a fun one. We'll see. I didn't even think about that. They are going to probably play each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's the year that both of those programs are really, feel like they should be front runners for a championship, when both of their 5-star quarterbacks are, hopefully before that, if you're Tennessee.
Texas is getting a lot of hype this season. I mean, Tennessee is too, right? But Tennessee just had an 11-win season. But I mean, Texas.
Yeah, what did Texas win, like
season.
6-7 games last year?
Yeah, something like that, I think. Look, because Quinn Ewers got hurt, and they weren't that good.
Yeah, it's fair. We'll see. Sarkisian, it's certainly way, he deserves a little bit of time to get that going down there. Yeah, for sure.
8-5.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's not bad. That's a Butch Jones year. Sorry.
There's been times when we were dying for a Butch Jones type year.
That's true.
Being fair.
Sadly,
9-4 didn't look too bad, and 3-7 2020.
Well, anywho, that's about it for those comments from Joe Milton. But we're gonna still talk about Joe Milton and this list that was posted today by a media member on Twitter. And it's not even necessarily just about this single post. It's more about this trend in general that you're seeing this offseason that we wanted to talk about. And it's just these ridiculous lists that people are making. And we're going to talk about them here in just 1 second after I tell you about Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau Health Plans have been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years. Much has changed in Tennessee over the years, but some has stayed the same. Farm Bureau Health Plans has always valued personal relationships, especially when it comes to good health and good service. Plan on Farm Bureau Health Plans for health, dental, and vision. For better coverage, better rates, and better service, go to fphp.com/ATOZ or walk into one of their 200-plus locations across the state of Tennessee. That is fbhp.com/ATOZ. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Thanks to them. Now, this guy, SEC Mike, who we were talking about before the show. We're pretty sure is a Tennessee fan himself, actually. Who does he do this show for? He has a show, the SEC podcast. Is it just independent? Like he just does it? I don't know.
Maybe I think he was with Saturday Down South. Maybe at one point. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like I remember that.
That's probably why this list stinks so bad. I don't know. Saturday Down South, they've gotten a little bit better over the years, but back when I was still writing, they really loved to steal people's content. But regardless, he now does a show called the SEC Podcast. And that SEC Podcast is what it's called. Pretty popular. It's 13,000 followers on Twitter. It's not as many as we have, but it is what it is. But he just himself, he put out this list today. There was a 2023 SEC quarterback rankings, and it got people a little stirred up. Number one, he had KJ Jefferson. I don't hate that pick. I think he's a good quarterback. JT Daniels at number two.
JT
Daniels. Where's JT Daniels these days?
He's been everywhere. I think he's played at 3 or 4 different schools.
I was thinking West Virginia the last time he checked in.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart at 3. Will Rogers at 4. Number 5, and already at this point you're kind of like, okay, where's Joe Milton? Because I mean, realistically speaking, if you're asking me, he should have already been in this list. If not at number 1, no further than probably number 3. Connor Wegman at number 5, and then Joe Milton at number 6. The kid from Kentucky, Leary, at number 7, the transfer kid. And then they kind of go through the other. He put Spencer Rattler at number 9, which I thought was kind of funny. That's although I don't. If Rattler plays the way that he played for the majority of last season, he's definitely number 9. If he played the way he played against Tennessee, he might be number 1. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Yeah,
he played good for that one game somehow. But yeah. So this, I mean, is behind Connor. Come on, behind Connor Wegman. Come on. This is silly. I mean, even if this season Connor Wegman, because he was 5-star coming out, went to Texas A&M. He was part of that big time number 1 class that Texas A&M had. That like half of those players have left now, but he was in that class, and yeah, I mean he played last season. He wasn't very good, but you got an off season under your belt. Even if he has a good year, like a preseason list with him in front of Milton. Come on. Maybe a postseason list, it might be a different discussion. But we've seen absolutely zippo nothing from Connor Wegman that suggests that he is a better quarterback than Joe Milton. It's literally nothing. The kid has barely played at all at the college level, and when he did, he wasn't very good. It's silly. I mean, before we get into the overarching thing that I wanted to talk about this, which is just the concept of these lists in general. But I mean, do you agree, Zach? Or should Milton be behind Connor Wegman? Maybe.
I mean, I would have put Milton. I would be okay with Milton at anywhere really in the top 4. I feel like Jefferson and Daniels probably have earned that top 2 spots just by virtue of starting more games than Joe Milton. I can understand. I wouldn't argue too hard with those picks, especially on a preseason list. Dart, even Rogers, maybe perhaps.
Yeah, Rogers
could see. So Milton at 4, ahead of Dart, and the rest of the list would be fine with me. I think that's probably where I would have him in that 3 to 4 range. Because he's only started 4 games at Tennessee. He has a lot to prove. Clearly, I think that's the big storyline of the offseason with Joe Milton, and we don't want to sit here and rehash all of that. But yeah, a 6 is definitely a bit too low. But I think it kind of that gets into this conversation about these lists that we're about to have. And I think it's very strategic the way some of these lists are put together.
Absolutely. Because it seems like a lot of these guys, and it's not just SEC, Mike, because like you said, I think he's a Tennessee fan. We weren't totally sure because he doesn't post that on his thing, but he has a history on Twitter that sort of suggests that he is. I don't know. And people may know that he is or is not, but yeah, there are many offenders here that try to cash in on this. And I'll actually say, I'll ask you this, Zach. There's one in particular that I think of who is, I would argue, maybe the worst Twitter account in the entire college football atmosphere. Do you know who that might? And he lists so many lists. Do you know who that might be?
I feel like I think you got to be talking about the Boomer Sooner
Oh
account. Is
man,
that the one you're going with?
bro, I don't know who that is. It sucks so bad. That
The
account is so bad.
the one thing I would give them credit for is the subject of their list are often creative and things that it's
Yeah,
like
that's true. He
you
has
know.
reached the bottom of the list barrel, like just scraping the charred wood off the bottom. Just
I mean, he is not far from like which SEC schools have the best sidewalks, and then listing
literally.
those. Yeah,
It is wild. Some of the I wanted to just go through it. The biggest strength. These are just the last few days. The biggest strength for every college team. He just retweeted that same one. Oh, he's got a lot of tweets here. Well, never mind. I'll have to come back. But it's stuff like that where it is literally like the most beautiful campus, the hottest women. I don't know if he's actually done that.
it would be like
but
best, best place, and it's not always a list. Sometimes it's best place to eat on each campus or something.
Yeah.
And it'll always be a controversial take where he maybe names like a chain restaurant for some place or something just to kind of set people off. And
exactly.
And that's where the strategy of this comes in. Is to me, there's 4 different types of lists that get put out there. And I think we all like lists. I think everybody's a sucker for a list because you want to click on it and you want to see where your favorite team, player, whatever happens to be ranked. But there's the analytical, the very serious list. Those are always out there, and you can appreciate those because they use logic, they use numbers to back it up. Then there's the Homer list, which I've probably been guilty of that, and not necessarily because I just want to like prop Joe Milton up or Hendon Hooker or whoever, but I'm more familiar with their game. I'm more familiar with their strengths. I'm more familiar with, okay, Hendon Hooker went 23 of 30 this game, but 3 of those passes were dropped. One was a miscommunication. You kind of have a little insight into numbers and our way. Then you've got the list. I think SEC White's list falls under where it's to get engagement, but it's in the neighbor, like putting Jaden Daniels and KJ Jefferson top 2 would give this list some legitimacy. Then you put Milton not so far down the list that it's absurd and it's just going to be dismissed and ignored, but kind of in that range, it's going to annoy some Tennessee fans. The same thing with Milroe at number 10. Alabama fans don't want to see their quarterback listed at number 10. Or, Beck at number 8. Why is Beck above Milroe or something like it? It gets engagement that way. I think it's a popular way that people do that, where they just want enough controversy where it's not absurd, but it can still be taken somewhat serious. And then you have the Boomer Sooner type list where it's just so absurd that nobody can possibly take it serious. And they're just going to rip it, and it's going to get attention because of how bad it is. And those really have become kind of an epidemic across social media where they're just all over the place. It doesn't even matter if the account is media or a troll account or just a random fan. Whatever happens, it's going to get attention no matter what. Almost always they'll kind of blow up and go viral.
Yeah, I think he really spearheaded that. I don't know if it was solely him, but he was the account that I noticed the most did that, and then it gets all these fan bases that don't.
I've seen Tennessee's code. Like sometimes they'll be like pro Tennessee, like it'll be something that paints Tennessee in a really nice light. And I've seen Tennessee coaches post that Boomer Sooner account on like their Instagram stories and stuff. And I just want to be like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, Joey Hosley or whoever might repost it?
I mean, the biggest liability for every college football team this season, 50 best games of the college football last season, and you just list them all like arbitrarily. I mean, like, I think I saw the one that was the best restaurants in each town. It's like, this dude hasn't eaten at every restaurant at every town in college football. He has no idea. And so he's saying things that that he knows would be inflammatory, and then you're going to tweet about it and blast it out there. And then that has caused a knock-on effects of 100 other people being like, oh, well, he got a lot of response, so I'm going to do that same thing. And it just sucks. It's just the worst.
How many followers does his account have?
Let's see.
I don't think I've ever looked.
No, because anytime I see, I skip over.
I do too at this point. Yeah, so it's clearly paying. I don't know what if he's using that to monetize his account in any way,
Yes,
or
because
but
right at the top, it has a promo code for an apparel company at the top of his thing that
hey,
I'm certainly not going to promo for him here for free ad space.
no, absolutely not. He's already got enough.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a brilliant strategy. It can be
it
infuriating if
worked.
you're a fan, but it clearly works.
Yeah, it's particularly infuriating because Tennessee's fan base is just so loyal and frenzied and crazy.
Always ready for a
Everybody
fight. Always.
always, and so everybody knows that
And
they can
Tennessee's
prove
fan
to
base
be
is
good.
smart too. Like every
Yeah,
fan base has fans that are crazy and make nonsense posts or nonsensical arguments, but Tennessee fans are smart for the most part. Like they know what they're talking about. I think that's SEC fans in general, to be honest.
yeah. I mean, even when I was at my most connected, where I was in the freaking facility most days at Tennessee, I would still talk about things on the radio. And people would call and be like, "Well, I saw that his cousin said on a message board that his dad is actually from," and I would just be like, "I don't know. Like, I'm literally in the facility with these dudes, and
Yeah.
you're telling me this stuff." Like, Tennessee fans are on a different level, and I'm
Oh
sure that
yeah.
it applies to other
Yeah.
SEC fan bases too. But like, it's crazy, and they are all over it all the time, and so they are just the perfect folks to bait in this, and it makes me so mad. Where I go, don't fall for this, don't post from this guy, don't give him any clout, don't do this. And man, it's just been killing me this whole off season because it's just this new stupid thing that's popped up. But now I guess we gave him a ton of promo. We
I
gave
was
him
about
what
to
he
say
wanted.
you just did everything that you just said not to do.
Yep, there you go, Boomer guy. Big game Boomer. That's his actual.
Okay, that's
name
what
there.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like
Ugh.
you. I skip over it just because I know what it is now. I'm like I'm not getting suckered into that. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna let it go because it's
It just
it's
sucks.
just nonsense.
Stop it. Although it's maybe he'll see this and tweet about it, that and then we could get the favor returned to us. Although he's probably smart and he won't do that. I don't know. We'll see.
Especially since we didn't plug his promo code.
Yeah. No, you're definitely not getting any free ad off of me there, guy. All right. We'll wrap this up with a couple of segments about recruiting. Last segment about a little baseball recruiting, but first a little football recruiting talk. And we'll get to that right after I tell you about Superbook Sports. If I can get the actual read open, we will tell you about it. We're changing the game. Help your bets stay hot this summer at Superbook Sports, the most trusted name in sports gambling with a direct line to Las Vegas. And now, when you use the promo code A to Z, ATOZ, you score up to $250 with their first bet bonus, win or lose. Superbook will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code A to Z. Download the Superbook Sports app, enter the promo code A to Z, and you'll get $250 courtesy of Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Superbook Sports. Download that app and get to betting. If you are a truly wild man in terms of betting, wild man or woman, betting on baseball. I don't know how people do it, but I have friends that do, and it's just too unpredictable. But hey, more power to you. And the place that you should do it, Superbook Sports. So, recruiting wise, there wasn't much to speak of. We talked about the giant recruiting weekend on last week's show, and nothing has come of that yet. There might be news soon. We're going to finish the segment with that. But there was a little bit of something that you wanted to bring up that had to do, again, kind of addressing what we talked about last week, a little bit to do with Tennessee and Clemson. But what was this, Zach, that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, on the Tennessee lost just to kind of cover right to it, Tennessee lost an in-state 3-star offensive lineman that they had just hosted on an official visit. I think they had his last visit before his commitment, Ronan O'Connell from Franklin, Tennessee, number 17 player in the state, chooses Clemson over Tennessee. This wasn't the case. A lot of times when Tennessee loses a lower rated in-state guy, it's like, okay, well, Tennessee wasn't really prioritizing him. This seemed like an instance where it's not like, okay, this is a must-get guy for Tennessee. It wasn't that situation, but it was a guy that Tennessee liked, probably going to play guard, listed as a tackle, I think, probably going to be a guard at the next level. It's a guy they wanted in the program, and he's an in-state guy. You get his last visit. I think he went to Tennessee June 23rd weekend. He was at Clemson June 3rd, 9th, one of the earlier weekends. He was also at Wisconsin. They were in the mix too. Surprise, Wisconsin's always in the mix for offensive linemen, it seems. Yeah. But I mean, it was, I feel like it's a little bit of I wouldn't say a stain, but it's a disappointment if you're Josh Heupel and the staff. I mean, you want to get this in-state guy, and he goes to Clemson right after you host him, and you feel like you have this momentum. Is that a red flag? I don't necessarily think so, because it's just one player, and there's so many factors that go in. Who's in his ear? Dabo does, I guess people say and think he has some type of charm when it comes to recruiting, and he must, because he does land some nice classes. So he does something right, even as cringeworthy as he comes off to the rest of us. You flash a championship ring at a kid, and even though Tennessee beat Clemson in the Orange Bowl, who knows what excuses Dabo laid out there. It is a bit concerning, I think, or not a bit concerning. It could be a bit concerning, I think, for fans. Wondering what your take on that was and how you felt about it.
I'll never get too upset over a single player, because you never, ever know the ins and outs there. Maybe mom went to Clemson. Mom's dad is a Clemson fan. Dad went to Clemson, some nonsense. It could be something as small as that. It could be that your parents met with Dabo and they just feel like, oh, he'll be a good father figure for you while we can't be there. And so we want you to go there. And they, it can just be anything. You like the vibe. Like some kids just have a feeling or something, and they decide to go somewhere else. It could be an NIL thing. Lord knows. So I don't put too much stock in just one kid. I do not like losing in-state guys. That is not great, especially one that you wanted and you were working hard for. I mean, that last official visit was on June 23rd, and he had that official visit, and a week later committed to Clemson, like you said. And that is just, that's not ideal, and it's odd, frankly. But maybe I feel like this could be another place where, like, folks who scour message boards a lot could be like, actually, his uncle is a contractor in the city of Clemson, and he's gonna, his uncle's his favorite relative. And, there may be something like that we don't know about. And apologies if that's the case. But, yeah, I don't love that. That's definitely not great, but maybe there's just other guys that it could be something like that. There could be somebody that Tennessee wants more, and that Tennessee not necessarily turned him away, but maybe gave some indication of, like, we might have other dudes in the pipeline and your spot might not be secure. Because that happens when you're a 3-star and you're kind of on that line. If they pick up somebody better, you can end up being kind of shaved off. And so maybe it was,
and that is one thing.
Who knows?
That is one thing about Clemson. Once players commit, Dabo doesn't want them taking visits to other programs, but he also, to his credit, he doesn't kick guys out of the class, either. And once they're committed, he honors that, holds on to them, pretty much regardless of what happens. So that is one factor when you're going up against Clemson. But it's not losing this one kid is not a huge concern as far as the class goes, because they will have other offensive linemen that they sign that are as good, better. It's not the only guy they were going after. They have plenty of other offensive linemen that they're targeting and that they could and should land. I think my thing with it was, that last visit, and then going head to head against Clemson right now for an offensive player, with Clemson making the switch to an offense this season that's similar to Tennessee's, up tempo, no huddle, playing fast. It's pretty much what Tennessee, like, Dabo lost to that, and then he went and got an offensive coordinator that he felt could run it, and that's what they're going to do moving forward now. It's pretty much just, following in Josh Heupel's footsteps. Heupel can point to that recruit and say, hey, you already know that works here, and we do it better than anybody else, because Tennessee's not the only program that runs that offense. They're not the only program in the SEC that runs that offense. A couple of programs in the SEC West do it as well. Clemson hasn't done it yet. You don't know how that's going to work out there. So I feel like you should be able to win that battle just on that argument alone. But like you said, there can be other factors. Maybe he just loved it at Clemson and felt more at home there. He's an in-state kid, but it's not like he's from Knoxville. He's from Franklin. It's it's not quite the same. It's not like you know lost a kid that grew up a Tennessee fan or grew up in the shadows of Neyland Stadium or something.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, at this point, I'm sure a lot of our listeners live in Nashville. They know like Franklin, it it used to really be down home, a lot of locals. Now Franklin is where like rich out of towners move to. And I don't know if this kid is that. He may have lived there his entire life. It may be a local. I don't know. But there's also a chance that he's one of the like a transplant and has nothing to do really with the state of Tennessee other than having lived there for a time. So, yeah, again,
and that's the case with a lot of those in-state players that Tennessee misses on, and they end up at Ohio State or something. A lot of times they're not from Tennessee at all. They just happen to move there.
I don't know the situation well enough, and obviously I don't know the kid personally to know any of the details that happened there. If the deep into the recruiting folks might know extra details there, feel free to drop them in the comments. But outside of that, I'm not going to get too upset about it. But we'll finish the football recruiting discussion with something that might not be timely by the time this comes out, but it is a player that Tennessee is chasing that they would really like to have, but it's kind of back and forth in terms of where exactly Tennessee will land with this kid. It seems like it's back and forth with where this kid may land at all with a number of schools here, and that is Elijah Rushing, 5-star defensive lineman, right? Edge rusher. And it seems like it's down to Arizona. It's so weird set here. Arizona, Oregon, which if those two teams were battling, okay, fine, Pac-12. Arizona, Oregon, and then Tennessee is a factor there. And Arizona at the moment on 3 is the favorite for this kid, and he's supposed to pick this week. I don't know. This is losing to Arizona for Oregon too. People in Oregon, if he chooses Arizona, people in Oregon should be having the same conversation. Arizona? Really? That's for a 5-star player? I guess he's from Arizona. He's an Arizona kid. He's from Tucson. So fine. But really? Arizona? Really? So you can choose? Okay. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's a homebody and he just wants to stay home. But and he may choose Tennessee. I don't know. But what do you think about the situation?
Yeah, to me, it almost feels like one of those that, is going to not be great news for Tennessee, just kind of the way it's trended, and Arizona kind of gaining this late momentum. Like you said, you said before, you see these picks start to come in, or people start these recruiting analysts start hinting towards, Arizona's gaining a lot of steam here. That usually means they know something. It's usually the direction it ends up going. But I'm the same way as you, a 5-star kid. Even if you are from Arizona, I feel like USC or something like that would be more in the mix than even being an in-state kid in Arizona. I mean, honestly, and maybe it's because it's mid-July or early July, I had to look this up just now. Do you even know who the head coach at Arizona is without searching it?
No,
I did not.
Because it was Kevin Sumlin, and I know he's not there anymore.
It's Jed Fish.
Okay.
Yes.
Now that you say that.
He's won 6 games in his first 2 seasons at Arizona.
Ooh.
I mean, he did go from 1-11 to 5-7, so there is some progress there, but that is incremental, slow progress. That's not 7-6 after 3-7, to 11-2 like Josh Heupel. There's quite a difference there.
Arizona's a basketball school.
Yep. Yes.
Basketball. Don't kid yourself there either. And that's always weird. That's why a lot of people don't go to Kentucky to play football, So hey, maybe Oregon or Tennessee lands this kid. I don't know. But that feels a little off to me if he chooses Arizona.
I could stomach losing a West Coast kid to Oregon. That happens. That's not shocking. That's not an indictment on anybody at Tennessee or Josh Heupel's staff. There's only so much you can do. It's always hard to pull a kid from the West Coast anyway. And Oregon always recruits well, no matter who the head coach is out there. They got, especially with the NIL era, the Nike cash is flowing out there. It's going to be tough to outbid Oregon for any kid. That's for sure. So, and I'm not saying that's what's going on here. You never really know, but Yeah, that happens, but losing to Arizona would be a tough one to swallow.
Yeah, that would not be ideal. But obviously, as we said, this will probably be outdated. Maybe by the time this even comes out, we might
Yeah.
already know where he's going. We might should have just waited and just done a segment on when he actually goes. But regardless, that was the recruiting information that was out there. We're going to finish with a little talk about baseball recruiting. Chase Burns, obviously, the news last week. You lose one of your aces pitching. That sucks. But we talked about maybe he's a little bit of a diva, however you want to frame that. He was just unhappy at Tennessee. And now you've gotten some pretty nice pickups in the transfer portal to take the pain off of that one. And we'll talk about it right after I tell you about Rattle and Snap Tennessee whiskey. Nothing goes better with a Tennessee sports victory than an amazing whiskey. And I'm talking specifically about Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey. Log Still Distillery has released a Tennessee whiskey product line called Rattle and Snap, named after a long forgotten game of chance. Rattle and Snap is a whiskey for those who make their own luck. There's a 4-year and an 8-year version. You can see the 4-year version right down there in the bottom corner of the YouTube video if you're watching. I've had both. They are both awesome. They go great in cocktails, or if you just want to drink them neat, they're awesome too. So go and get yourself some Rattle and Snap in stores across the state of Tennessee. That's also available in Kentucky, Indiana, and Mississippi. So run, don't walk to get yourself some Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey for those Tennessee sports victories. And follow Rattle and Snap on Instagram at Rattle and Snap Whiskey. Tennessee baseball. At this point, we all, we watched what happened, and it was really the hitting that kind of doomed you this season. You just couldn't come up with the hits when it mattered. You know, against LSU in the College World Series, you just didn't have it, whatever it may be. There was enough to overcome their incredible hitting that ultimately won them the national championship. And now you've made a couple of pickups from NC State and now Wofford. We talked about people from NC State last week, but who did we get this week, Zach?
I've lost his name here now that you've.
Sorry, we talked about a lot of different stuff. It was, and now I'm drawing a blank now that I'm having to remember it off the top of my head. This is great.
Well, I had it all pulled up and completely closed it all out whenever we were talking about the Boomer Sooner.
Hey, that was my bad. Ryan Galaney. I could not.
Yes, Wofford. Yes.
And I got distracted because Cannon Peebles' name is some. Like, I mean, freaking, you got a kid on the team now that's named Cannon. That's so sick.
Baseball names.
Ryan Galaney.
The sport of baseball provides some tremendous names. It really does.
Yeah. The Ryan Galaney, he's not on that top end, but yeah, I mean, you get a dude named Cannon. You've hit the name jackpot. And we talked about Peebles last week. And what do we say? He hit 352 last season. And with Galaney, I believe he was the SoCon Player of the Year this past season from Wofford, and it's another big pickup for your batting order. And
he was in 363 there, which is
not bad at all. And I mean, he was ostensibly the best player in that entire league, and you got him out of the transfer portal, and that's amazing. And you look at some of the dudes from lower leagues that you've gotten that have become great transfers. Chase Dolander, anybody? That you can get kids from these lower level leagues that end up being really great, and you got essentially the best one from the league that he comes from. And so this is amazing, and it's going to add to that lineup, and Lord knows they need the help because it's what doomed him this season. So this seems like a really great pickup.
But not only that, it seems like this is a requirement to win a College World Series at this point. You have to go out and get these guys from these lower level programs, because in baseball, more than any sport, it's so hard to project what a player will do. In football, you look at their body type and their speed and their measurables, and you kind of know what you're going to get. With baseball, we've talked about it a lot before. It's such a mental game. You don't know how they're going to respond once they play at the next level. And there's always going to be these gyms at these lower level schools, and even the mid-level schools, and even other Power 5 programs where kids want to transfer, to a bigger school like, Tommy White going from NC State to LSU. Paul Steen's going from Air Force to LSU. I mean, they relied on these types of players to go win in Omaha this season. So it's it's not just a good thing that Tennessee's doing this. It's something they really have to do if they're serious about wanting to win a College World Series. Which I think my personal feeling, I think Tony Vitello will probably eventually get one. I think you're in the College World Series enough times. You're in there on a regular basis. Eventually, you're going to get hot, and you're going to be the team that comes through. You're going to need a guy like a Paul Skeens or Dylan Cruz to kind of carry your team. Maybe this is that guy for Tennessee.
I mean, we saw this season, your pitching is still going to be good. Drew Beam coming back, AJ Russell in that postseason, just the short time that you did see him look like an absolute dude. And you have a number of other guys coming back where I think your pitching is still going to be really solid. Is it going to be as good as it was this year? No, I don't think it is. But you never know. This season before, we didn't know Dollander was going to be as good as he ended up being, pitcher of the year. And so I think you're going to stay solid on the mound, and then you're really improving at the plate. And so it's really exciting. And hopefully everybody takes a step forward too in terms of hitting, like a Blake Burke, where you see so much potential there, where he can
consistency.
He can murder a baseball, but he does it once every blue moon. And so you got to get it to where he can be more consistent, because I think he has the potential to be a Mike Concho, but you just got to get him there. You got to you have to get him to maximize his ability. And so I think it honestly could help just taking more of the pressure off of those guys, spreading out the wealth in that lineup. Could definitely help, because the top of the lineup was just rough. And so you got to that middle portion a lot of the time, and those guys probably thought they had to be the hero and step up. And that's where you end up getting in your own head. You could fall into a slump because of that. Who knows? That might be what happened to Burke. And so, those guys can keep taking a step forward. You add these dudes into the lineup, if we can remember their names. No, sorry to Ryan there. But yeah, I think you're gonna have another good baseball team, period. And you're gonna be a preseason, top 25, top 15, top 10. I don't know exactly where they'll land, because I don't know what everybody else has in college baseball at the moment. But yeah, it's just gonna be another good year. And Tony Vitello, he's a gangster. The man wants talent. He's going to go out there and he's going to get talent. He's one of the best recruiters in America. And I still am of the opinion it's just a matter of time. He's going to have the Tennessee baseball breakthrough. He's going to win one. And it just is it's a win, not an if, to me, when it comes to Vitello at this point, just because of the things that he's able to do, and that he has already done. So we'll see though. But hopefully this is not the end of the transfer portal for Tennessee baseball. Because some pitching would be nice, but maybe you can't win them all. We'll see.
But one thing with baseball, I think this season taught fans, and maybe even us with some of the conversations we had early in the season, don't worry so much what happens in the first half. It all get it together come May. Right before the SEC tournament, find your groove. Obviously you have to play well to make sure you make the tournament, but it's what happens in that second half of the season. That's what really matters.
Oh, and here's a little bit of, you're absolutely right, let me say, but here's a little bit of Tennessee news here.
I think I was going to ask you about this.
Grant Williams traded from the Boston Celtics to the Dallas Mavericks,
and he's getting a nice little chunk of cash too. It's a little sign and trade deal, 4 years, $53 million that he's signing to land in Dallas there.
Not bad.
Did you see what he did this weekend? Did you see where he was at on July 4th?
I don't think so. What was he doing?
Did you see the big party in the Hamptons with Tom Brady and Jay-Z and Jack Harlow, Kevin, and Kim Kardashian? The list goes on and on and on. And Grant Williams was one of the guests there, and so was Tobias Harris. And Grant was actually getting trolled by most of the internet. People saying, what was this guy doing there with all of these other guys? Like, why is he in the photo with Jay-Z kind of over here to the side?
I mean, even Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is a very good NBA basketball player. He has had a very solid career in the NBA. With that crowd, he's pretty borderline. Even
Yeah.
I
It
love
was the
both of those dudes. Let me just say, but that's like A-list. I mean,
oh yeah, it was very
Brady and
Ben
Jay-Z.
Affleck,
That's like
Jennifer Lopez. I mean, everybody was in like all white. It was the CEO of Fanatics, Michael Rubin, that put on the whole shindig. He's kind of known for putting on like Super Bowl parties and stuff like that.
well, but is do they sponsor Grant? Is he like a spokesman? Because that might explain it.
I'm not sure. It could be part of it.
Yeah, see, I don't know.
And with Harris, was Tobias Harris, was he with the 76ers at one point? I can't.
Yeah, he was.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, okay. The Rubin guy was he was a part owner of the 76ers at one point, so that could be a connection there.
You get sports owner money from owning a sports apparel website?
Oh, I think he was he's an entrepreneur, and he had some business before Fanatics, and he sold it to eBay for like $1 billion or something.
Okay.
And
so
that is
like
sports
a
owner
Mark
money
type.
Yeah.
I got to get Hampton's money. One of these days.
You'll be up there rubbing elbows with Tom Brady?
Yeah, I'll invite Grant Williams. Grant Williams will be at my party. Don't worry. all Tennessee former players that are in the current sports leagues are welcome.
If you're an NBA fan and you want to keep up with Grant Williams, that means you get to watch him and Kyrie Irving now together.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting move. I don't know who they have at that sort of like small forward position. Not sure who he'll be.
I mean, you consider Luka a guard, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I don't know. NBA's changed so much with these positions. They're almost positionless at times. I mean, you got Giannis bringing the ball up the court in Milwaukee at 6'11".
Yeah, that's true.
Jokic playing point guard half the time. It's kind of crazy these days.
Yeah, man. I don't think he would be interchangeable
with Luka.
Doncic, but
no, I don't think so. Yeah. No offense to Grant, but they kind of play different games.
Yeah, I don't see that at all. So I don't. I mean, Jimmy, I haven't watched the Mavs. If I ever watch NBA, I watch Memphis. I'm much more of a college basketball guy. And I'll watch John Morant when he plays, whenever he will play again. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. But I'm when my team gets bounced, I don't watch. I'm like, I tune out. I didn't watch the finals. I don't think many people watched those finals, frankly, with
Miami and Denver.
Yeah, maybe I'm sure somebody did, but not me. All right, Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan, thank you for listening. We're getting closer, folks. Hang with us. We're gonna make it to the end of the off season.
It's media days is 2 weeks away.
Oh, so close. It's gonna be a fun time. Because when things really get going, we'll start some like previews and some different things. Maybe eventually give our predictions and previews of all the games. It's coming up, so stick with us. Thank you for listening. Go over to AtoZSports.com to read everything that Zach writes. Dude is a content machine, so check that out. And otherwise, I think that's going to be it. We'll talk to y'all next week.
See you guys later.